Hi friends, this is Bill McDonald, the Reading and Writing Doctor here. Today I'm going to work on a fifth grade question about the organizational structure of a passage that happens to be literary nonfiction. Sort of like uh, something that really happened, but told in a story format to make it more interesting. So what the question was how did the author or why did the author use a cause and effect organizational structure in the selection? So, cause and effect, remember, is using the teeter transition totter, cause, transition, effect, text structure. What that means is that there's going to be needing to be something that causes an effect, an action that causes a reaction. So another name for a cause and effect is because this happens, there's this transition in the middle to this other thing happening, which is also known as the results. So when a passage is asking your students about the organizational structure of an entire passage, they have to be able to imagine the content in the answer choice having the introduction, the body, and the conclusion of the literary nonfiction passage, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So I'm going to show you a way to help your students who struggle to be able to find some keywords in the answer choice and to be able to use the beginning, middle, end breakdown of the answer choice to help them find an answer a little bit easier, because the one we're going to look at is a fifth grade question that only had 55%, which means 45% of the kids in Texas didn't know how to analyze the structure. And what that usually means is that when they're looking at a passage, when they're looking at an entire selection, you have to look at the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I love you is that in sign language, but kids don't love having to endure reading from the beginning to the middle and the end. So what usually happens is if they only read the beginning and part of the middle, it forms an L, and you can see that here, and they're going to lose out on getting the correct answer because the organizational structure of a story, whether it's fiction or literary nonfiction, it has to have a piece of each part of the puzzle called the story. So let me show you by using the question first, how to help kids who struggle with reading. It says, use the public speaking is easier when a cute dog is listening to answer the following question. So you can right away tell that this is a paired passage. And so one of the passages was a literary nonfiction passage. And so I'll take a look at that with you real quick so we can see. There it is right there. Public speaking is easier when a cute dog is listening. And so it's told in a story format, and it even has the breakdown of little mini titles of the beginning, the middle, and end. And so it's being compared to a poem. So the poem that comes before it is called Assembly, Single File We March. So on the very first line, you can say, okay, we as in first person, because if you look at me here in the corner, I'll enlarge myself a little bit. Hopefully it'll come up bigger. If, first person is I, and then when I turn my fingers this way, you see three pointing down, that's me. Or if I flip it, it's we. So this is a first person. March is present tense. The kids watching, point and laugh. So this is a first person present tense poem paired with a third person literary nonfiction passage that only has 14 paragraphs. All right. So what they're asking about is how the organizational structure of the literary nonfiction is set up and why it's set up using a cause and effect relationship. So when you see the question, reason, we're looking for why, what is the cause of the cause and effect structure? Okay. So when you look at this, to letter A says to explain the results of a program. That would be the end because results are how something ends. That's an effect, all right? Which means that the beginning, when I break it apart, students who need to give speeches, okay, that's what they tell us at the beginning. They practice with an unusual audience in the middle, and then they want to explain how it goes. And the unusual audience, you can tell from the title T, which helps us understand the topic T, that the unusual audience is a cute dog who's listening to kids who need to give speeches who might be nervous. So let's take a look at letter B to explain how a university program designed to help. Well, when you look at the content, only paragraphs 9 and 10 talk about how the program got started. So that's not an organizational structure of a passage, a selection. That's the organizational structure of two paragraphs. And a paragraph with a topic sentence, a main idea, and its specific supporting sentences and closing is completely different than the organizational structure of an entire selection. How does it begin? What's in the middle? And how does it end? Or we draw a conclusion. Letter C, to explain the challenges that two students experience as they work with dogs. Well, that leaves out the program. That leaves out that there's kids needing to give speeches. That's not mentioned. And it doesn't focus entirely on the challenge. And that's not a cause and effect relationship, because if it only talks about the challenges that the students have and doesn't say how they overcome the challenges, that's not a cause and effect relationship. So you can't pick an answer that is not set up with the structure that the question is talking about. To explain how dogs are chosen, okay? So if that's cause and effect, well, they talk about how they're chosen perhaps at the beginning because they need to have the dogs ready when it's time for the kids to give the speeches, all right? So if we're talking about just the beginning, that's great, but they didn't say one section, they said the selection. So that means the whole thing has to be broken down. And so the only one that has a cause and effect, because the dogs are chosen, well, what caused them to be chosen? What was the effect? That part's missing. And so the only thing that has a cause and effect relationship of the beginning, the middle, and the end of the passage would be letter A. And so that's what I would recommend. As you can see here, only 50% of the kids got it right. And so teach your kids to break down, look for keywords like results and other effect synonyms. When they talk about the selection, make sure they're looking at the entire thing, not just one piece like B, C, and D do. So there's how I would suggest that you teach kids who struggle to answer a question like cause and effect, again, using the teeter-totter seesaw relationship. God bless you guys. Go ahead and feel free to share this video with your reading teacher friends that are needing to talk about text structure versus organizational structure. How is it organized? How is it ordered? And as you saw in this one, just letter A had the breakdown of the beginning, the middle, and the end, and the end also being an acronym for effect, the results of the program. So God bless and take care.